started, like most bad things in my life, with a simple decision that I should have taken the stairs, that I keep telling myself that over and over, a useless mantra that does nothing to scrub the memory from the inside of my skull. But I didn't. I took the elevator. It was a Tuesday in late October, the kind of New York day that smells of cold exhaust and roasting nuts. I was with Chloe. We'd been dating for about 3 months, and it was still in that electric fever dream phase where every glance felt like a secret and every touch was a promise. She worked for a small indie magazine, and she'd scored us passes to some rooftop cocktail thing at the Empire State Building. Networking, she'd said with a wink, her hand resting on my thigh. But mostly just an excuse to see the city with you. Chloe was the kind of woman who made you forget your own name. She had this cascade of dark, almost black hair that fell in soft waves over her shoulders, and when she laughed, which was often, her whole face lit up, her high cheekbones flushing a delicate pink. That day she was wearing a tight-fitting emerald green dress that clung to every curve, the fabric straining just slightly across her chest in a way that made it impossible not to stare. I remember watching the way her hips swayed as we walked through the bustling lobby, the smooth, confident motion of it. Her legs were long and toned, ending in a pair of stupidly high heels that made her ankles look impossibly delicate. I had a sudden vivid image of myself kneeling down, my fingers tracing the thin strap of one shoe, feeling the fine bone beneath her skin. The thought was so sharp, so inappropriate for the grand, echoing marble space we were in, that I felt a hot flush of guilt. "You're staring, Mark," she said, a playful smirk on her glossed lips. Her voice was low, just for me. "Can you blame me?" I managed, my own voice sounding rough. She linked her arm through mine, her body pressing against my side. "Just wait for the view from the top." The lobby was a monument to Art Deco ambition. All polished brass and gleaming marble, a river of tourists flowing in every direction. We found the bank of elevators that would take us to the 86th floor observatory. The line moved quickly, a testament to the building's relentless efficiency. Soon enough, we were herded into a large, wood-paneled elevator car with about 15 other people. It was a tight squeeze. The air was warm, thick with a dozen different perfumes and colognes. Chloe was pressed up against me, her back to my front. I could feel the warmth of her through my jacket, the subtle shift of her muscles. My hand rested on her hip, and I could feel the firm curve of it beneath the smooth fabric of her dress. I leaned in, my lips close to her ear, inhaling the scent of her shampoo, something like coconut and vanilla. For a moment, the crowded elevator, the drone of the tour guide's spiel, it all faded away. There was just the heat of her, the promise of the night, the simple animal comfort of her body against mine. The doors slid shut with a soft, definitive thud. The elevator was one of the modernized ones, sleek and silent. A calm, automated female voice filled the car. Asterisk, 86th floor observatory, next stop, 80. Star. The numbers above the door began to climb. 2, 3, 4. The ascent was smooth, the only sound the muffled hum of machinery and the quiet breathing of the crowd. We passed the 10th floor. The 20th. I was half listening to the guide, my attention mostly on the way Chloe's hair tickled my nose. Then at the 30th floor something changed. The elevator didn't jolt or stutter. The lights didn't flicker. It was the voice. It was still the same pre-recorded female voice, but the cadence was off, slower. The words were spaced apart, each one dropping into the silence like a stone in a pond. Asterisk, next. Asterisk, a pause, the air felt still. Asterisk, stop. Star.
Another, longer pause. I could feel Chloe's body tense slightly against mine. 星号 7. 星号 the number hung in the air. 7. The digital display above the door clearly read Central. A few people exchanged confused glances. A man in a baseball mall chuckled nervously. Glitch in the matrix, he muttered to his wife. The calm voice returned to its normal rhythm. 星号 86th floor observatory. 星号.
The elevator continued its climb. The moment passed. People relaxed. It was just a computer error, a skipped beat in the building's digital heart. Chloe leaned her head back against my shoulder. "Weird," she whispered. "Yeah," I said, but the word felt dry in my mouth. Asterisk 7. Asterisk, it was just a number. A random, meaningless number spat out by a faulty circuit. but it had landed in the pit of my stomach with a cold, heavy weight that I tried to shake it off. That I focused on Chloe, on the smooth skin of her neck, on the way her dress hugged the small of her back. That I let my thumb stroke her hip, a slow, circular motion. She sighed, a soft, contented sound, and pressed back against me. The desire was still there, a low thrum in my blood, but now it was tangled with a thin, cold wire of anxiety. The floors ticked by 40, 50, 60. My heart was beating a little too fast. That I told myself I was being an idiot. That it was a coincidence. That a glitch. Then it happened again. That we were at the 67th floor. The display was clear. The voice spoke. Asterisk, next. Asterisk pause, asterisk stop. Asterisk pause. My hand tightened on Chloe's hip. She looked up at me, her brow furrowed in a question. Asterisk, 7. Star. A woman near the front let out a short, sharp gasp. This time the confusion was louder. It did it again, a kid said. Mom, it said 7. The guide, a young woman with a bright, professional smile, spoke into her microphone. Just a minor audio malfunction, folks. Nothing to worry about. That will be at the observatory in just a few moments. But it wasn't minor. Not to me, because 7 wasn't a random number. It was the age I was when my father left. Not left like went to get milk and never came back, but left in a louder, more final way. A slammed door. A screaming match in the driveway. The squeal of tires on asphalt. My mother sobbing on the kitchen floor, her body curled around the leg of the table. I remember standing at the top of the stairs, my small hands gripping the wooden banister, watching it all happen from a distance. I was 7. The memory was an old, faded photograph, one I kept locked in a mental drawer I rarely opened. But the voice, that calm, automated voice, had just reached into my head and pulled it out. The elevator arrived at the 80th floor, where we had to switch to another car for the final ascent to the 8060. The doors slid open and everyone spilled out into the transfer lobby, a murmur of relieved conversation filling the space. The weirdness was already being processed, filed away as a quirky story to tell later. I felt unsteady. Chloe noticed immediately. She took my hand, her fingers lacing through mine. Hey, you okay? You're pale. Fine, I said, forcing a smile. Just a little claustrophobic for a second there. She squeezed my hand. It was weird, right? Saying 7 like that. Yeah, I said, my voice tight. Weird? We joined the shorter line for the final elevator. My mind was racing. It was a coincidence. It had to be. A random number generator in the elevator's computer had hiccuped and landed on a number that, by sheer chance, had significance to me. The odds were, well, they were odds. It happens. But the feeling wouldn't leave. It was a cold spot in my chest. The second elevator was smaller, more intimate. We were in a smaller group this time, just 8 or 9 of us. The doors closed. The ascent began. This elevator had a digital display that showed the floor number in bright red digits. 81, 82, 83. I held my breath without realizing it. Chloe was watching my face, her expression concerned, her glossed lips were slightly parted. I found myself staring at them, at the perfect bow shape of her upper lip, wanting to lose myself in the physical reality of her, to use her as an anchor against this rising, formless dread. 84. 85. The elevator slowed. We were almost there. A wave of relief washed over me. It was over. A strange fluke, nothing more. The elevator came to a smooth stop. The red digital display read 86. The automated voice spoke. Asterisk, 7. Asterisk. The word was flat, final. It wasn't part of the next stop phrase. It was just the number. 7. A dead silence filled the car. The doors didn't open. We were stopped at the 86th floor, but the voice had declared we were at 7. The guide, her smile now strained, pressed the door open button. Nothing happened. Must be a full system glitch, she said, her voice losing its professional polish. My blood had turned to ice. This wasn't a coincidence. This was a message, and it was for me. That's when I saw him. Or more accurately, that's when I became aware of him. He was standing in the back corner of the elevator. A man I hadn't noticed before. He was tall and painfully thin, dressed in a dark gray suit that seemed a size too large, hanging off his gaunt frame. His hair was a nondescript mousy brown, neatly combed, His face was long, with pale, almost waxy skin and deep-set eyes that were a very light, watery blue. That he wasn't looking at anyone, that he was just staring straight ahead, at the closed elevator doors, his hands hanging limp at his sides. There was nothing overtly monstrous about him, that he didn't have fangs or claws. But his presence was like a drop of ink in clear water, spreading a subtle darkness through the small space. That he was utterly still. Everyone else was fidgeting, looking around, muttering that he was a statue. The guide was on her radio now, her voice a frantic whisper. "Control, we're stuck at 86, doors won't open. Audio system is malfunctioning." A crackle of static, then a tinny voice. "Copy, stand by, resetting system." The lights in the elevator flickered. Just once. A quick, jarring blink. In that split second of darkness, I could have sworn I saw the man's head turn towards me. I could feel those pale eyes on me. The lights came back on. He was staring straight ahead again. My heart was hammering against my ribs. Chloe was clinging to my arm, her nails digging into my sleeve. "Mark, I'm scared," she whispered. Her fear should have been my focus, but my attention was ripped away, split between her and the man in the corner. I could feel the soft pressure of her breast against my bicep, and for a horrifying, shameful second, I felt a jolt of arousal, a primal response that was completely at odds with the terror of the situation. My brain was short-circuiting, desire and dread fused into a single, unbearable current. The elevator gave a soft chime. The doors slid open. We stumbled out into the bright, open space of the 86th floor observatory. The panic of the moment was immediately swallowed by the sheer grandeur of the view. New York City sprawled out in every direction, a breathtaking tapestry of lights and shadows, of towering buildings and tiny, moving cars. The night air was cold and bracing. People let out sighs of relief, laughing nervously, already pulling out their phones to take pictures. I stood there, frozen, my hands still gripping Chloe's. My eyes were fixed on the elevator doors as they slid shut. The man in the gray suit was still inside. He hadn't moved. As the doors closed, his head turned, slowly, deliberately, and those pale, watery eyes locked directly with mine. He didn't smile, he didn't frown, he just looked. Then the doors met, and he was gone. "Come on," Chloe said, pulling me gently towards the viewing platform. "Let's get a drink. I need one." I let her lead me, my body moving on autopilot. The encounter had lasted less than 5 minutes, but it felt like I'd aged a year. We got our cocktails, some overpriced concoction in a plastic cup, and found a relatively quiet spot by the north-facing railing. The wind whipped at Chloe's hair, sending dark strands across her face. She brushed them away, her movements graceful even now. "Okay, talk to me," she said, turning to face me. Her eyes, a warm, intelligent brown, searched my face. "That wasn't just claustrophobia. What's going on?" How could I explain it? "Hey," the elevator announced the age of my deepest childhood trauma, and I'm pretty sure the tall, creepy guy was its messenger. It sounded insane. "It's nothing," I said, taking a long swallow of my drink. The alcohol burned, but did nothing to warm the cold knot in my stomach. "Just a weird feeling." "That guy," she said, her voice dropping. "In the back, did you see him?" So I wasn't the only one who'd noticed, yet I saw him. "He gave me the creeps," she shuddered, wrapping her arms around herself. The motion pulled her dress tight across her chest, and I found my eyes drawn to the shape of her breasts. The way the neckline dipped. It was a desperate animal attempt to focus on something life-affirming, something real and warm and good. But the image of the man's pale, expressionless face kept superimposing itself over hers. "Forget about him," I said, more to myself than to her. I put my arm around her, pulling her close. She nestled into my side, her head on my shoulder. I could feel the delicate structure of her collarbone beneath my hand. I focused on the solidity of her, the living, breathing woman in my arms, and tried to push the memory of the elevator away. We stayed up there for maybe half an hour, making stilted conversation, pretending to admire the view. I was jumpy, scanning the crowd, half expecting to see the tall, gaunt figure standing at the periphery of every group. But he was nowhere to be seen. Eventually we decided to head down. Neither of us wanted to get back in an elevator, but the stairs weren't an option from the observatory. We joined the queue, a silent, grim line of people. When it was our turn, we filed into a new car, this one operated by a human attendant. The descent was uneventful, The voice announced the floors correctly. There was no sign of the man in the gray suit that we spilled out into the bustling lobby, and the sense of relief was profound. The real world rushed back in, the noise, the crowds, the sheer normalcy of it all, that we decided to walk for a bit, to clear our heads before grabbing a cab that we were a few blocks away, lost in the neon glow of Midtown. When Chloe stopped to adjust her shoe, she leaned against a building, lifting her foot, her slender fingers working the strap. The pose was unconsciously elegant, highlighting the long, clean line of her leg. I watched her, the simple human beauty of the act momentarily soothing my frayed nerves. That's when I saw the reflection in the dark mirrored window of a closed jewelry store. I saw him. The man in the gray suit, that he was standing across the street, perfectly still, just watching us. That I spun around. The sidewalk was crowded with people, a river of moving bodies. But he wasn't hard to spot. That he was a still point in the current, a tall, gaunt figure standing under a street lamp. That he was too far away for me to see his expression. But I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that he was looking right at me. "Chloe," I said, my voice a strangled croak. She looked up, following my gaze. Her face went pale. "Oh my God, that I asked that? Let's go, now." I grabbed her hand and we started walking quickly, weaving through the crowd. That I didn't look back, that I didn't need to. I could feel him, that a pressure between my shoulder blades. After 2 blocks, I risked a glance over my shoulder. The street was a sea of strangers. That he was gone. We flagged down a cab and collapsed into the back seat. That I gave the driver my address in Brooklyn. Chloe was shaking. That I put my arm around her, pulling her close. Her body was tense. The sexual charge between us had been completely shorted out by the fear, replaced by a raw, shared vulnerability. That I stared out the window at the passing city, but all I could see was that pale, expressionless face. When we got to my apartment, the familiar surroundings, the worn sofa, the stacks of books, the faint smell of coffee, should have been a comfort. They weren't. The place felt different, as if the walls themselves had absorbed the dread from the city and were now breathing it back out. Chloe went straight to the bathroom. That I heard the lock click. That I stood in the middle of my living room, my hands clenched into fists. I was being hunted. That I didn't know why or by what, but the feeling was undeniable. My phone buzzed in my pocket. That I flinched. That I pulled it out. That a notification from my photo cloud. Asterisk, on this day, 7 years ago. Asterisk, my thumb trembled as I tapped the screen. That a photo loaded. That it was a picture of me, from a party. That I was younger, my arm around a girl.